We will discuss about the philosophy of the space and time. And the philosophy of the space and time is the branch of the philosophy that is concerned with the issues surrounding the ontology and epistemology of the space. While such ideas have been central to the philosophy from its inception, the philosophy of the space and time was both an inspiration for and the central early analytical philosophy. The subject focuses on a number of the basic issues, including whether time and the space exist independently of the mind, whether they exist independently of one another, what account for time's prevalently and unidirectional flow, whether time one other than the present moment exists, and the question about the nature of the identity, and so on. Many such type of the questions were regarded at the time. Ancient and the medieval views. Earliest recorded philosophy of the time was expounded by the ancient Egyptians, thinker, and other physiologists. The Vedas, the earliest text on the Indian philosophy and the Hindu philosophy, dating back to the late second millennium BC, describes ancient Hindu cosmology in which the universe goes through repeated cycles of the creation, destruction, and rebirth, with each cycle lasting 4 lakh 320,000 years. Ancient Greek philosophers, including Pyramids and Hercules, wrote essays on the nature of the time. Sachs regarded space and time as the single conception, and that is named as Pasha. Plato in the Timaeus identified time with the period of the motion of the heavenly bodies and the space as that in which things come to the Aristotle, in book 4 of his physics, determined time as the number of the changes at respect to before and after, and the place of an object as the innermost motionless boundary of that which surrounds it. In Book 11 of Austin Confucius, he reflects on the nature of the time, asking what then is time. If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain, it is who one who asks, I do not know. He goes on to the comments on the difficulty of the thinking about the time, pointing out the inaccuracy of the common speech. For, for but few things are there for which I speak probably. Of most things we speak improperly, still the things intended are understood. But the Aristotelian presented the first philosophical argument for the reality of the creation in the context of his discussion of the time, saying that the knowledge of the time depends on the knowledge of the moment of the things, and therefore time cannot be whether there are no creation to measure its passing. And in context, in contrast, the ancient Greek philosophers who believed that the universe had an infinite past with no beginning, the medieval philosophers and the theological developments, the concept of universe having a finite past with a beginning. Philosophers and the theologians of the farm arguments from the impossibility of the existence of an actual infinite, which states an actual infinite cannot exist. An infinite temporal regress of events is an actual infinite. An infinite temporal regress of the time and cannot exist. In the early 11th century, Muslim physicist Ibn al Hatham discussed space parathon and the exceptional implementations in which the book of the optics. He also rejected his total definition of the proofs by way of geometric demonstration and defined place as a mathematical optical extension. His experimental disproof of the externus missions hypothesis of the vision led to the changes in the understanding of the visual perception of the space. Contrary to the previous emission theory of the vision supported by the Ludian and Ptolemy, in trying the visual perception of the space to the pure bodily experience, also unquestionably rejected the spiritual perception of space. Therefore, and therefore the autonomy of vision without the tangible notions of distances and the size for polarization side can tell us next to the nothing about such things. Now we discuss about the realism and the anti-realism and traditionalism. Realist position in ontology is that the time and the space have existence apart from the human mind. Idealists, by the contrast, deny or doubt it existence of the objects independently of the mind. Some anti-realistic whose ontological position is that the objects outside the mind do not exist. Nevertheless, doubt the independent existence of the time and space. In 1781, Immanuel Kant published the creator of the pure reason, one of the most influential works in the history of the philosophy of the space and time. He describes time as a prior notion that together with the prior notions such as a space allowing us to comprehend sense experience. Kant holds that neither space and the time or substance either in themselves are learned by experience. He holds rather than both are elements of a synthetic framework we use to structure our experience. Spatial measurements are used to quantify how far apart objects are, and temporal measurements are used to compare the interval between our duration of the events. Although space and the time are held to be transiently ideal in this sense, that is mind dependent, which they are also empirically real. That is, according to Kant's definition, a priori features of experience and therefore not simply subjective variable or accidental perception in a given consciousness. Some idealist rights such as the utility of the time have argued that the time is an illusion. He writes discussed here as for the most part realistic to the regard for insane. Gottfried Leibniz held that his moods existed at last independently of the mind of the observer.